Captain Eric Kane had seen many things in the vast reaches of space, but nothing prepared him for what awaited on the outskirts of the Selenar cluster. His ship, the Starhawk, glided silently through the inky darkness, sensors scanning for anything unusual. The galaxy was full of danger, from rogue asteroids to hostile alien raiders, but Eric had always believed that courage and quick thinking could see him through. On this mission, he was tasked with routine patrols along the trade routes near the uncharted planet Virelia Prime. Reports had come in of a strange signal, a distress call, unlike anything in human records. Eric's curiosity was piqued. The signal was faint, fragmented, yet unmistakably urgent. Someone, or something, was asking for help. As he approached the source, his sensors picked up a massive vessel, sleek and unlike any human or known alien design. It was under attack. Explosions rocked the ship as unknown attackers fired energy beams. Eric's heart pounded. He had faced pirates before, but this was different. The attackers moved with precision, almost as if they were trained for a single purpose: destruction. Without hesitation, he activated the Starhawk's defense systems and engaged the enemy. The ship lurched with each laser strike, but Eric's skill kept it steady. He maneuvered carefully, avoiding debris while returning fire. Then, he saw her, a figure standing on the deck of the alien vessel, directing the defense systems. She was tall, graceful, with eyes that shone like liquid silver. Her presence was commanding, even amid chaos. Eric's sensors identified her as the ship's occupant. He had never encountered a life form like this. The distress signal made sense now. She needed help. Without a second thought, he prepared the boarding pod. The decision was dangerous: board a ship under fire, with unknown technology and unknown species, but he did not hesitate. Saving lives was what he did best. The pod shot through space, closing the distance to the alien ship. Eric gripped the controls tightly as alarms blared around him. He landed on the ship's hull, cutting through the airlock with precise tools. Inside, the scene was chaotic. Sparks flew, systems were failing, and the crew, if they could be called that, was struggling to hold the ship together. "Captain Kane, are you all right?" A calm, melodic voice asked. Eric turned to see her fully. Queen Lazara, of the Virelian species, unmistakably regal, yet clearly in danger. Her silver eyes met his, and in that moment, Eric understood the weight of his actions. This was no ordinary life he was saving. "I'm fine," he replied, though his pulse was racing. "I'm here to help. Let's get you out of this." Together, they moved through the corridors, dodging energy blasts and falling debris. Lysera directed him with surprising authority, pointing out weak points in the attackers' strategy. Eric realized she was not only a leader, but also highly intelligent and strategic. His respect for her grew with each passing second. They reached the bridge just as the enemy breached the outer defenses. Eric worked quickly, interfacing with the alien systems he barely understood. His fingers flew over unfamiliar controls, translating patterns, rerouting power, and activating defense protocols. Lysera stood beside him, giving precise instructions in her language. Somehow, he understood her. Whether it was intuition, the ship's translator, or sheer human adaptability, Eric did what he did best: act decisively under pressure. After what felt like hours but was only minutes, the attackers began to retreat. Their formations faltered, and their energy weapons lost focus. With one final burst from the Starhawk, the enemy ships scattered into the void, leaving the alien vessel damaged but intact. Lysera exhaled deeply, her eyes shining with gratitude. You saved us," she said softly, almost in disbelief. Eric smiled, though exhaustion tugged at him. "It's what I do. No one deserves to be left to die." For a moment, the chaos faded. The two stood on the bridge, looking at the stars outside. It was silent, except for the soft hum of the ship's failing engines. There was an unspoken connection between them, a recognition of courage and loyalty. Lysera, who had led her people with wisdom and strength, now looked at him with a kind of vulnerability. And Eric, who had faced countless dangers, felt something stirring he had never expected. Respect, admiration, maybe even something deeper. Night fell over Virelia Prime, casting silver light through the ship's viewports. Lysera invited Arik to rest in the ship's central chamber, a space of shimmering crystals and soft energy fields. The chamber seemed alive, responding to emotions, calming fears. They shared stories that night about their lives, their worlds, their hopes. Eric spoke of Earth, its oceans, and its cities. Lysera spoke of her people, their history, and their dreams for a peaceful galaxy. Though they came from different worlds, their connection was immediate. Laughter echoed in the chamber as they recounted tales of mistakes and heroism. For a brief night, the galaxy's dangers were forgotten, replaced by mutual understanding and trust. But the dawn brought a reminder of reality. Eric knew he could not stay. There were threats he could not reveal, enemies that would exploit any hint of his presence. Lysera, sensing his inner conflict, did not ask him to stay. She simply looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and sadness. "I must leave," Eric said quietly. "But know this. You are safe because of what we did tonight, and I will always watch over you from afar." Lysera nodded, though her heart ached at the thought of losing him so soon. "Then go, Captain Kane, and thank you." Before she could see him leave, Eric disappeared into the shadows of the ship's corridors, leaving only a small medallion on the chamber table, a token of the night they shared and the promise he could not speak aloud. As the sun rose over Virelia Prime, Lysera stood alone, staring at the horizon. She knew she had met someone extraordinary, someone who risked everything for life and honor. Though he was gone, the memory of that night, and the human who had saved her, would remain with her forever. Little did she know, the galaxy's vastness would not keep them apart forever. The night they shared was only the beginning of a story that would cross the stars, test their courage, and ultimately bring them together again in ways neither could imagine. 5 years had passed since Captain Eric Kane disappeared from Virelia Prime. The galaxy had moved on, yet Queen Lysera could not forget him. His face, his courage, and that one unforgettable night haunted her thoughts. Her advisors often noticed her distant gaze during meetings, and even the most pressing matters of state sometimes faded before the memory of the human who had risked everything to save her. Lysera had grown stronger in these years. She ruled the Virelian people with wisdom, building alliances, defending her home, and guiding her species through the challenges of a galaxy full of dangers. Still, a quiet emptiness remained within her heart, a space that only Eric could fill. She often wondered why he had left without explanation. Perhaps he had a reason she could not understand, but it left a lingering ache she could not ignore. Meanwhile, Eric's life had taken a very different path. After vanishing from Virelia Prime, he worked in secret across the galaxy, carrying out dangerous missions for the Interstellar Alliance. The human government had recognized his skills and discretion, assigning him tasks that required courage, strategy, and the ability to act alone. Eric's disappearance had been deliberate. He could not risk revealing his presence to enemies who might target Lysera and her people. Protecting her meant staying in the shadows, moving from one remote star system to another, always vigilant. Even in solitude, Eric's thoughts often drifted back to Lysera. He remembered the way her silver eyes reflected starlight, her calm but commanding voice, and the connection they had shared in that brief night. He had left to protect her, but it was not easy. Every decision he made carried the weight of her life. Every mission was a balance between duty and desire. Back on Virelia Prime, Lysera had not been idle in her own search. Using her people's advanced technology, she sent scouts and emissaries to every human colony, searching for any sign of the brave human who had changed her life. She followed every rumor, every story of a mysterious protector, even when others dismissed it as legend. She could not let go. The bond they had shared, though brief, was too important to ignore. Her patience finally began to bear fruit. Reports trickled in of a human matching Eric's description, appearing in distant systems, helping colonies under threat, and acting in ways that reminded the Virelians of his courage and honor. Lysera studied each report carefully, connecting the dots with a growing certainty. He was alive. He had not forgotten her, and he was still out there, making the galaxy a better place in his own way. Lysera's determination only grew stronger with time. She understood the risks, but she also knew that Eric's presence in the galaxy was too important to ignore. If he could survive alone for 5 years, she believed she could find him. Her heart urged her forward, and her mind mapped out the possibilities. Each clue she discovered brought her closer, each whispered legend adding another piece to the puzzle. Meanwhile, Eric faced his own challenges. In a remote star system on the edge of known space, he uncovered a rogue faction of alien mercenaries planning to destabilize human and Virelian settlements. They were organized, dangerous, and well-armed. Eric knew that confronting them was essential to prevent widespread destruction. Working alone, he infiltrated their operations, sabotaging supply lines, and carefully avoiding detection. He could not risk drawing attention not just for himself, but for Lysera and the people she led. During one mission, Eric discovered evidence that suggested the faction had knowledge of Virelia Prime. This confirmed his fears. Leaving without warning had been the right choice, but the danger to Lysera and her people was very real. He resolved to continue his work, knowing that one day, the threat would be neutralized and he could finally reunite with the queen he had saved. Lysera, on her side, had not forgotten the medallion he had left behind that night. It was a simple piece of human craftsmanship, yet it carried a significance that went beyond its form. She kept it on her person always, a reminder of the human who had changed her life. Every decision she made, every step she took in leadership, was influenced by the memory of Eric's courage and kindness. 5 years of distance had not weakened their connection. If anything, it had strengthened it. Lysera's resolve to find Eric grew with every passing day, while Eric's resolve to protect her, even from afar, never wavered. Though separated by vast distances and dangerous circumstances, their bond endured. A quiet, yet unbreakable thread, linking 2 souls across the stars. Finally, the moment of change came. A remote colony reported a human who had intervened to prevent an attack, showing both bravery and intelligence. The descriptions matched Eric perfectly. Lysera studied the reports, confirming patterns in his actions and locations. He was near the outer edge of human space, acting with a purpose that could only be his. Lysera prepared a small, specialized team to locate him. She did not want a large force that might frighten or endanger him. Instead, she relied on stealth, precision, and her own intuition. The years of leadership had honed her decision-making, and she trusted that the human she sought would recognize her if they met again. She believed he would understand why she came. As the Virelian scouts traced the signals, Lysera could feel the anticipation building inside her. She thought back to the night she had spent with Eric, the laughter they had shared, and the trust they had formed in a fleeting moment. She remembered the courage it had taken him to risk everything for her. And she knew that no matter how many years had passed, the bond they shared had never truly faded. At the same time, Eric's mission in the remote system drew him closer to an unexpected confrontation. The rogue faction had been planning something larger than he had anticipated, and the threat was growing closer to Virelia Prime. The timing was uncanny, as if the galaxy itself was pushing their paths to converge once more. Both Lysera and Eric were moving toward the same goal, unknowingly guided by fate and shared purpose. The galaxy, vast and indifferent, had kept them apart for years, but it was beginning to align their paths once more. In the silence of space, a reunion was taking shape, and neither of them could yet imagine how deeply the events of the past 5 years would change their lives and the galaxy itself. For now, the Queen prepared, the Captain maneuvered, and the story of courage, loyalty, and destiny continued to unfold. Though separated by time and distance, both knew that the night they had shared was only the beginning, and when the stars finally aligned, they would meet again stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever the universe had in store. The galaxy was vast, filled with billions of stars and countless worlds. Yet for Queen Lysera, every signal, every rumor, every tale of a mysterious human protector brought her closer to finding him. Eric Kane had vanished 5 years ago, but she could feel his presence lingering like a shadow across the stars. The bond they had shared, brief as it was, had not faded. Reports came from a small mining colony on the edge of human-controlled space. The colonists spoke of a human who had saved them from a sudden attack by alien scavengers. They described his bravery, his cleverness, and the way he seemed to appear at exactly the right moment, as if the stars themselves guided him. Lysera's heart leapt. She had recognized the pattern instantly. Eric's way of operating was unmistakable. Lysera dispatched a trusted scout to investigate the colony. The scout returned with a small token, a medallion that had been found at the site. It was identical to the one Eric had left behind on her ship all those years ago. Her hands trembled as she held it. He was leaving signs, subtle but undeniable, as if he wanted her to know he was alive without revealing his location to his enemies. Meanwhile, Arik was far away, unaware that Lysera had begun her search. He moved silently through the outer systems, uncovering plots and protecting settlements. Every action he took was guided by his sense of duty and the quiet hope that one day he might reunite with the Queen. He avoided direct contact with Varelian forces, knowing that drawing attention could endanger her. Still, he left traces of his presence, small, clever clues that only Lysera could recognize. The next clue came from a remote trading station. Arik had helped prevent a devastating sabotage of their energy systems. The traders, unaware of his identity, spoke in awe of a human who moved like a shadow, working with skill and courage beyond what any ordinary human could achieve. Lysera studied the reports carefully. She could feel his path unfolding across the galaxy, and she understood that he had been acting not just to protect humans, but also to safeguard her people from hidden threats. Lysera's mind raced. Every piece of information brought her closer, but it also revealed the dangers Eric faced. The rogue factions he battled were ruthless, well-organized, and determined to destabilize peace across multiple systems. Yet Eric faced them with a quiet confidence, using ingenuity, courage, and his human unpredictability qualities that had always amazed her. She realized that the human she sought had become a guardian, not just of Virelia Prime, but of countless innocent lives across the stars. Back on his ship, Eric studied the stars. He had sensed that someone from Virelia Prime might be searching for him, though he could not be sure. He often wondered if Lysera remembered him, if she thought of that night they had shared, and if she understood why he had left. The memory of her silver eyes, filled with trust and gratitude, remained vivid in his mind. Each mission he undertook was a silent promise to her. He would protect her, no matter the cost. Lysera decided to take a more active role. She directed scouts to follow Eric's trail more closely, collecting every detail of his movements, every story of his heroism. She did not want to rush him or endanger him, but she needed to know he was safe. Each report strengthened her resolve. She realized that Eric had never truly abandoned her. He had acted out of love, respect, and duty. His disappearance had been a sacrifice, not a choice born of indifference. As Lysera pieced together the signs, She also reflected on what she had learned in the 5 years since his departure. She had grown as a queen, facing challenges that tested her wisdom, courage, and patience. Yet, she recognized that some challenges were not political or military. They were personal, emotional, and deeply human. Her search for Eric was as much about finding a lost connection as it was about securing peace. One evening, while reviewing reports from the outer colonies, Lysera noticed a pattern. Every time a human settlement was under threat, there was a sudden intervention, a shadow in the night, a clever plan executed perfectly. A hero, appearing without warning, and vanishing just as quickly. All of these incidents occurred near the same regions, forming a trail that led closer and closer to the edge of known space. Lysera's eyes shone with determination. She had found him. Eric, meanwhile, had intercepted a communication from the rogue faction he was tracking. They had discovered evidence of his interference and were planning a coordinated strike. For the first time in years, he realized that his past actions might soon force a confrontation he could not avoid. He tightened his defenses and prepared for the inevitable. Little did he know that Lysera was drawing nearer, guided by the signs he had left behind. The universe seemed to conspire to bring them together. In the quiet moments between missions, Eric thought of Virelia Prime and the Queen he had saved. He recalled the laughter, the stories, and the connection that had formed in that single night. He had left to protect her, but now, unknowingly, she was coming to find him. The thought filled him with a rare sense of hope, a hope that had been absent for years. Lysera's scouts finally located a remote system where Eric had been assisting a small colony under attack. She approached cautiously, not wanting to reveal her presence too soon. The sight of him older, seasoned, yet still unmistakably the human who had saved her life made her heart skip a beat. She could see the courage in his movements, the intelligence in his eyes, and the unwavering sense of duty that had always drawn her to him. For the first time in 5 years, Lysera understood that the bond they shared had survived time, distance, and danger. The signs of his past, every medallion, every act of bravery, every story of heroism, were a message to her. He had never forgotten, and he had never stopped caring. The human she had searched for was not just alive, he was still the same man who had risked everything to save her. As she prepared to approach, Lysera felt a mixture of anticipation and fear. What would she say? How would he react? Would he remember that night as vividly as she did? The galaxy had separated them, yet it had also preserved the memory of their connection, allowing it to grow stronger over time. Meanwhile, Arik sensed a presence, faint but undeniable, among the stars. He could not explain it, but a strange feeling told him that someone he cared about was near. His instincts, honed over years of danger, urged caution, yet hope flickered within him. The universe was aligning, and soon, the paths of human and queen would cross once again. The stars held their breath, waiting for the moment when two souls, separated by time and distance, would finally meet again. Lysera had followed the signs, piecing together his actions across the galaxy. Arik had acted with courage and purpose, leaving subtle clues of his presence. The stage was set for a reunion that neither would forget, a reunion that would test their courage, reveal their true strength, and reignite the bond that had survived 5 long years. And so, the hunt, the hope, and the anticipation continued, as both human and queen moved closer to the moment when the galaxy would bring them together again. The signs of the past had guided her, and the silent heroism of Eric Kane had prepared the way. Their story was far from over, it was only entering its next chapter. The remote star system was quiet, but the calm was deceptive. Captain Eric Kane had sensed danger for hours, and now it was approaching fast. The rogue faction he had been tracking had discovered his presence and was preparing to strike. He moved with precision, checking his ship's systems and scanning for threats. Every instinct he had developed over years of missions told him that this confrontation could be dangerous. Unbeknownst to him, Queen Lysera had arrived in the system, guided by the signs he had left across the galaxy. Her ship, sleek and almost invisible against the backdrop of stars, drifted carefully toward his location. She had chosen stealth to avoid alarming him. After 5 years of searching, she finally had him within reach, but she also knew that timing was everything. She could not risk his safety, yet she could not delay. Eric noticed a faint signal on his scanner, unusual but familiar. Something in the pattern made his heart beat faster. He could not explain why, but it felt like a presence he had been waiting for. He prepared to investigate, unaware that the queen he had saved 5 years ago was approaching silently. Suddenly, alarms blared. The rogue faction had arrived. Several enemy ships emerged from hyperspace, surrounding Arik's location. He immediately engaged evasive maneuvers, weaving between asteroids and debris. Lasers lit up the darkness as the battle began. The enemies were precise, coordinated, and ruthless, but Eric was faster, smarter, and unpredictable. He had survived countless dangers, and he was not about to fail now. Just as he prepared for a daring counterattack, a familiar energy signature appeared on his sensors. His heart skipped a beat. The readings were unmistakable. Someone he knew, someone extraordinary, had arrived. He adjusted his flight path, subtly coordinating with the new arrival, without fully realizing who it was. Lysera emerged from the shadows, commanding her ship with the same skill and authority she had shown years ago. She targeted the enemy ships with precision, cutting through their formations and buying Eric the opening he needed. Together, though without words, their teamwork was seamless. It was as if no time had passed since that night on Virelia Prime. Eric maneuvered closer, amazed at how familiar her tactics felt. Lysera, seeing him take advantage of the opening she had created, knew it was truly him. Her heart raced as she confirmed the truth. He had survived, and he had remained the same brave, resourceful human she had known. The battle intensified. The rogue faction attacked with renewed ferocity, sensing the shift in their target's defenses. Lasers cut through the void, and explosions rocked the small asteroids around them. Eric and Lysera moved in perfect coordination, using strategy, skill, and intuition to outmaneuver their enemies. Each action reinforced the bond they had formed 5 years ago, the connection that had survived distance, time, and danger. Finally, with a clever combination of tactics and bravery, Eric and Lysera turned the tide. The rogue ships, overwhelmed and disorganized, retreated into the void, leaving the system in uneasy quiet. For the first time in years, Eric allowed himself to exhale fully. He had survived, yes, but more importantly, he had been reunited with the queen he had saved. Lysera approached his ship, docking with precision. The doors opened, and they finally saw each other face to face. Words were unnecessary at first. The silence held a depth of emotion that only they could understand. The bond formed in one night, 5 years ago, had endured, and now it was stronger than ever. Eric spoke first, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Lysera, it's been too long. Lysera smiled, a mixture of relief and joy lighting her eyes. Too long indeed. Captain Kane, I never stopped searching. He stepped aboard her ship, and they moved to a private chamber. The walls glowed softly with Virelian technology, casting gentle light over their faces. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other, remembering, understanding, and reconnecting. I thought I lost you, Lysera admitted quietly. Eric shook his head. I had to leave. I couldn't risk your life. Every mission, every action I took, it was to protect you and your people. I never stopped thinking about you. Lysera reached out, her hand brushing his. The touch was gentle, yet it carried the weight of years apart. And now we are here, she said softly. Together again. The conversation was interrupted by a warning signal. Sensors detected a small scout ship from the rogue faction, trying to track them from the edge of the system. Arik and Lysera exchanged a knowing look. The battle was not yet fully over, but now they faced it together. With renewed determination, they prepared to confront the threat. Their combined skills were extraordinary. Arik's human ingenuity and adaptability complemented Lysera's intelligence, strategy, and command. Together, they neutralized the scout ship before it could call for reinforcements, ensuring their safety. After the final skirmish, they finally had a moment to breathe. Lysera looked at Arik with admiration. "I see now why I followed the signs," she said. "You've done so much. More than I could have imagined." Arik smiled, a rare moment of humility in his otherwise confident demeanor. "I've done what I had to do. But seeing you here, now, it makes everything worthwhile." They shared stories of the past 5 years, of missions, dangers, and victories. Each tale revealed more of their resilience, courage, and the choices that had kept them apart, yet guided them toward this reunion. They laughed, they reflected, and for a brief time, the galaxy outside seemed to fade, leaving only the two of them. As the stars shimmered beyond the ship's viewport, Arik and Lysera realized something profound. Their bond had survived trials, distance, and danger. It was stronger because of it, tempered by experience and respect. The connection they had formed that one night had grown into something enduring, something capable of facing any challenge the universe could throw at them. Lysera finally spoke, her voice firm but gentle. "Captain Kane, we've been given a second chance. Together, we can face what comes next. The galaxy is safer when we are united." Arik nodded, feeling the weight and truth of her words. "Then, we move forward, together." For the first time in 5 years, they were not separated by distance or duty. They were side by side, ready to face the dangers of the galaxy, and ready to rebuild the connection that had never truly been broken. The stars outside reflected the promise of new adventures, shared courage, and a bond that no force in the universe could sever. The night had passed, and the new day had begun, one filled with hope, partnership, and the rekindling of a connection that had survived the void of years. The story of Arik Kane and Queen Lysera was far from over. But for now, the reunion had restored something priceless: trust, respect, and the beginning of a future they could face together. The stars shone brightly over the quiet system where Arik Kane and Queen Lysera had reunited. The battles of the past years seemed distant now, replaced by a calm that both welcomed and savored. Yet, both knew that peace in the galaxy was never permanent. New challenges would arise, and old enemies still lurked in the shadows. But for the first time in 5 years, they were ready to face the future together. After the final skirmish with the rogue faction, Arik and Lysera took time to organize their next steps. The rogue faction had been weakened, but intelligence suggested that remnants of the group were still scattered across nearby systems, planning, waiting. Arik, with his experience in human operations, devised strategies to track and neutralize these threats quietly. Lysera offered the resources of the Varelian fleet, not for immediate attack, but for support and protection. Their cooperation reflected not just trust, but a deep respect for each other's abilities. During the planning sessions, moments of quiet connection returned. They often walked the deck of Lysera's ship, looking out at the stars. Each shared a story of the past 5 years, Arik of the missions he had undertaken in secret, Lysera of the challenges she had faced ruling her people alone. Every tale reminded them that distance and danger had tested them, yet their bond had survived. "I never imagined I would find you here," Lysera said one evening, her eyes reflecting the light of distant stars. "After all these years, I didn't know if it would ever happen." Arik smiled softly, a mixture of relief and determination in his expression. "I left to protect you, and to keep you safe. I could not risk the enemies finding you through me. But now, we are together. That is what matters. They worked tirelessly to coordinate efforts across human and Varelian territories. The rogue faction's movements were tracked with precision, and Eric's interventions, combined with Lysera's fleet, prevented attacks before they could begin. Colonies once vulnerable were now safe. Trade routes stabilized, and tentative peace began to grow across systems that had been threatened by chaos. Through it all, Lysera observed Eric closely. He had always been courageous, clever, and selfless, but seeing him operate alongside her, as a partner and equal, was different. She felt pride and admiration in a way that went beyond the gratitude she had felt when he first saved her life. He had not changed in the ways that mattered. He was still human, resourceful, and full of heart, but he had grown through the trials of the past 5 years. Eric, too, noticed changes in Lysera. She had matured as a queen and a leader, facing challenges with grace and wisdom. Yet beneath the regal exterior was the same compassionate, brave soul he had met on that fateful night. Their bond, strengthened by distance and danger, now formed the foundation for something greater: partnership, trust, and perhaps even love. After weeks of planning and strategic interventions, the remnants of the rogue faction were finally cornered. Arik led a careful operation, striking swiftly and decisively to neutralize the threat. Lysera's fleet provided support, but Arik's tactics and quick thinking were instrumental in ending the danger without unnecessary loss of life. It was a triumph of strategy, courage, and teamwork. When the final report came in, confirming that the threat had been eliminated, both felt a sense of relief that was almost tangible. Eric allowed himself a rare smile of satisfaction. "It's finally over," he said. Lysera nodded, her eyes softening as she looked at him. "No, it's not just over. It's a beginning. For both of us, and for the galaxy." They spent the next few days visiting colonies and settlements affected by the rogue faction. Their presence reassured people and strengthened alliances. Lysera's diplomacy and Eric's reputation as a hero created a wave of hope and inspiration. Colonists spoke of the courage of a human who had saved a queen and the wisdom of a queen who sought out her hero. Across the stars, the story of their partnership spread, reminding everyone that humanity, intelligence, and bravery could shape the future in remarkable ways. Finally, Lysera invited Arik to return with her to Virelia Prime. The planet had grown and thrived under her leadership, but she wanted him by her side not just as a protector or ally, but as someone who shared in the responsibilities and joys of leadership. Eric hesitated briefly, thinking of the missions he had left behind, the secrets he still carried. But he knew the galaxy had given him this chance, and he would not let it slip away. When they arrived on Virelia Prime, the people celebrated quietly but warmly. They understood the bond between Eric and their queen, and they admired the human who had risked everything for their safety. Lysera introduced him as a trusted ally and a friend, but Eric could see the pride and admiration in her eyes, and he knew that their connection was far deeper than words could describe. One evening, as the twin moons of Virelia Prime rose over the horizon, Arik and Lysera stood together on a balcony overlooking the city. The soft glow of lights, the gentle hum of activity, and the quiet stars above created a sense of peace that both had longed for. Lysera turned to him, her silver eyes shining. "You saved me once, Eric, but it seems the galaxy needed us together more than I realized. We make each other stronger." Eric nodded, taking her hand gently. "And we will face whatever comes next. Together, not just as protector and queen, but as partners. In everything." They stood in silence, feeling the strength of their bond, the trials they had overcome, and the promise of the future. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers and endless possibilities. But for the first time, they did not face it alone. The night passed, and a new day dawned. Arik and Lysera walked through the streets of Virelia Prime, greeted by citizens who respected and admired them. Together, they oversaw projects that would strengthen the planet, enhance alliances, and build a safer, brighter future. They combined human ingenuity and Virelian wisdom, proving that cooperation between species could achieve remarkable things. For Arik and Lysera, the future was no longer a mystery filled with longing and separation. It was a canvas of opportunity, hope, and shared purpose. The bond formed in one fleeting night, strengthened by years of distance and trials, had endured, and now it would shape the galaxy itself. As the sun set over Virelia Prime, casting golden light across the land and sea, Arik and Lysera stood together, watching the horizon. They were ready. Together, they would face whatever came next, protecting life, fostering peace, and proving that courage, loyalty, and compassion were the greatest strengths a being could possess. The story of Captain Arik Kane and Queen Lysera was far from over, but now it entered a new chapter, one of hope, partnership, and the enduring spirit of humanity and allies united across the stars. The galaxy would remember them, not just for their heroism, but for the bond that had survived trials, danger, and time itself. And so, under the twin moons of Virelia Prime, they began their new life side by side, ready to protect, inspire, and explore the endless possibilities of the universe together.